we look at the opportunities, the bottlenecks, and the next phase of growth in India's logistics revolution. Welcome to Deep Dive, in which we are going to look at opportunities, the bottlenecks, and the next phase of growth for India's logistics revolution. And joining me today is Mr. Rinkesh Roy, who is the Joint MD and CEO of JSW Infrastructure. Mr. Roy, thank you very much for joining us. Now let's start off with the global perspective. The West Asia crisis has already put in place that we need an alternate supply chain mechanism because Strait of Hormuz, whether today or tomorrow, will always be at risk. How are companies like us or India looking at it?
So, we had the opportunity to go to Fujairah during this ceasefire time. And the feedback that we got from the government, the ports, was that the government of UAE is very seriously taking up the upgradation of ports outside the Straits of Hormuz. So Fujairah, Dibba, Khorfakan, these are the ports which are outside the Straits of Hormuz. Fortunately, we are a O&M operator in two of this, Fujairah and Dibba. We've got an oil terminal in Fujairah. And what we have seen is totally a strategic shift. So there was a rail line in Fujairah to Abu Dhabi, which was, kind of lying low, very less traffic. Now it's running chock-a-block with trains. So, and the government, high delegations had come from the government how to upgrade these ports very quickly. Similarly, Oman, most of their ports are outside the Straits of Hormuz. So what we are seeing is strategically, the Strait of Hormuz is it's going to remain like a red flag, whether we resolve it today or tomorrow, but it will remain as a red flag. So the development of all these ports is going to happen very fast and very quickly.
Are you also looking at ports in Oman now?
So we have a tie-up with Oman Mineral Development Organization to set up a port near Salalah called Ash-Shawamiya. So it's currently under discussions for signing of the concession agreement. So once the situation stabilizes, the conditions precedent are under discussion. So I think we will be taking that up.
And how? No, we were for the last few years after COVID, we have been talking about an alternate supply chain, which will go all the way up to Europe and from there to the US, right? Which included the West Asia as well. Do you think now that would Fujairah will be the route to the?
Yeah, absolutely, because the ones which were going inland to reach Europe will be still within the, still within that problem area. So on that, it would not be that easy to get those rail links coming through very quickly. But the alternate to shift, you see now everyone's focus is how do you shift out of Hormuz. So that's now happening. That UAE government, Oman government, they're now taking up very actively how to move out of Hormuz. You don't have to get into Hormuz for your bunkering. So there you set up ports, your transshipment ports, and then you move out. So that's, I think, going to be a big plus for Fujairah and Oman.
How do you look at the Indian logistics sector? Ever since Gati Shakti has come in, a lot of emphasis has been put on, multimodal transport, connectivity, reducing cost of logistics, which is very high at this point in time. What kind of expansion plan do you see in India? Because what we saw, what the National Infrastructure Pipeline had some 14,000 plus projects. How is that progressing?
So number one is that the Ministry of Railways, let me tell you, has been rapidly reforming and putting up very, very investor-friendly policies. The Gati Shakti policy is a pointer in that. You see what they have done, they have leveraged railway land. So earlier, if I was to set up a siding, I would have taken a plot of land inland somewhere, had to have a connectivity of 5-6 kilometers, all of which involve a lot of expenditure. Here, the railway land is leveraged. You pay the license fee to the railways. You are able to set up the connectivity at absolutely low cost, and you are able to develop a huge, post-unloading services for the customer. So you are able to develop warehouses, you are able to develop specialized cold storage tanks, whatever you want, you can develop in that piece of land. So that's been an excellent choice because railways are looking at a modal shift from road to rail. So currently the rail share, as you know, is around 26%.
Yeah.
The government is very determined to do that. And if you look at it on a longer play, it's very energy efficient. You don't have to waste diesel or petrol to deliver that product. So it's more on electrification. So railways have electrified, you have the coal. So you are making a system which is self-sufficient. You don't require energy security, you don't require to get in more of oil for moving that cargo. So that, I think, has been a big plus point.
And do you think better integration is happening between various projects like a Bharatmala, Sagarmala, and and the rail line?
So that part also, if you look at it, every customer or everyone is looking at a unified solution. So you can't operate in different parts. So even for us, why we went into logistics? Because we felt that the days of a standalone port operator is over. You have to now give the customer a unified solution, and you have to deliver it at his doorstep. So that also is a way that why we went in for logistics. And the second thing was it ensures a stickiness of customers for everyone who is able to develop a unified solution.
How do you look at the shift in this logistics? Because bulk cargo from a freight point of view accounts for nearly 70% of the freight movement. Do you see specialized freights now moving through rail?
So what we are looking at, you see this container train operators that you have. So basically what are they? So they are looking at getting a cargo into a container. So the railways are now further, kind of relaxing their policy where less than train loads, you are able to mix up. So you act as a freight forwarder also.
Okay.
So you are able to set up ICDs, collect cargo, mix up, and then move it to the hinterland and deliver at the lowest possible cost. I think that's been, a way that you encourage freight forwarding to come up.
It requires a lot of ICDs across the country, right? In that sense.
So you're absolutely correct, Sajid. It's a network game. So you have to set up a pan-India network if you want to be in that space. So most of the players that we see, they are in the EXIM business. So we are playing it slightly differently. We have taken domestic plus EXIM. Okay. So the idea is that you have a base cargo. So the anchor provides you a base cargo, and then you top it up with third-party cargo.
Okay. And how lucrative is it in terms of margins for the base cargo and the third-party cargo?
So the margins would be more or less the same for base or the third-party cargo because we are customer agnostic. So in a way that for us everyone is equal. But what would happen is that you are relying that a particular mix of cargo gives you covers your operating expenses, your initial capexes, and the return leg you are able to take care through third-party cargo.
Okay.
So the way you operate is to reduce the empty runs. So most of your runs, how do you make it loaded? Which any truck operator or any transporter does. That's the same philosophy you have to carry.
True.
So empty return ratio, how less it can be.
And give us a sense of how that entire efficiency works, right? Means return runs will be lesser than what we are taking to the ports. But at the same time, you said you have your competition with the roadways, which is there, with emphasis on rail network, which is now coming in. Do you think that long distance logistics will gradually move to the rail portion rather than on the roads?
So I'll just give you one example. We have a ICD, we have a terminal not in Morbi. So Morbi, we take tiles in containers, move it to Calcutta. So earlier this used to go by road.
Okay.
So we are now moving this by train, one of the longest leads for any train travel from Gujarat to Bengal. It's around 2,000 kilometers approximately. So we land up there. From there on our return leg, we are picking up cargo from Haldia port and moving back into Morbi. So, possibilities are endless. Just imagine how many truck movements you have eliminated, how much of diesel you've eliminated in this process. So you are able to get both ways loaded traffic.
But you're saying that the future of CVs are a little in danger because of this kind of logistics taking place. But having said that, the efficiencies of logistics are also improving, right? Means at one point in time we had the cost was estimated to be 8% of GDP, and I think the Prime Minister also mentioned that it has to come down. How is the efficiency working now? For last 4-5 years, Gati Shakti is working, right?
So one is Gati Shakti. We are primarily, as I told you, we are more focused on rail-based movements, and if you look at it, multi-tracking of all the major routes have taken place. So everywhere now you're getting into third line, fourth line. You have the DFCs already getting commissioned. So a lot of the transit time that used to be very abnormally high, these have started reducing dramatically. I think that is where the main benefits accrue to the system.
Do you see, because the government is also targeting nearly 45% of the freight through rail, that's a big growth area for you because you did a couple of acquisitions also last year. How's that working for you?
So Navkar, I'll just give you it's a classic case. In FY25, we had got a 8 crore EBITDA. In FY26, 118 crores. Capacity utilization in FY25 was 44%. FY26, 56%. In the quarter Q4 of FY26, 60% capacity utilization. So the same assets we are able to utilize better through a better management practice.
So there's a better delta for every increase in utilization.
So we are looking at, getting it up to 75 to 80% and making Navkar's EBITDAs also go up to around, this year our target is around 160 and we're looking at touching around 200 by the end when we set up all other network terminals also.
You're one of the second largest logistics and infra player there. But what is the kind of capex that you yourself are putting in for the entire thing, whether it's railway, roads, ICD?
So we, as I told you, so 30,000 is on the port side, 9,000 is on the logistics. In logistics, we have already acquired Navkar and we have already acquired rakes. So there we are ramping up, and it's a very easy way to ramp up because the moment you get the trains online, you start earning money.
Okay.
So it's a very a very quick
it's a cash flow positive on day one, is it?
So you invest around 25-26 CR on a rake, and you get around 4 to 5 CR. So it takes a slight bit of built up. But you immediately start generating cash the day it's put online.
How do you look at, from a domestic player, you also have investments overseas, and that's a supply chain investment which the country also needs. Does it align with the strategic intent of the country as well?
Yes. So where we are taking up in Oman, so these are related to mines. So you have limestone mines, gypsum mines. So everywhere we are looking at it on a more strategic viewpoint where it's more still an India-centric story. So that finally that chain has to be with India.
And that's one of the reasons how you select a port or a destination for that?
Absolutely.
How much of your total capex that you mentioned you will be investing in overseas, infrastructure?
So as of now, in the plan that we have laid out, except for Oman, the rest all is India-centric.
Within India, you're also looking at Tuticorin, you're looking at Mangalore and Kolkata, where you have, you're expanding a thing. How big these projects will be even the expansion completes?
So Mangalore is a 1.8 million ton capacity. We are adding to already a 4.2 million capacity of containers. So that will be over by August of this year. And Kolkata will starting operations. So there are some conditions precedent from the port side that have to be completed. So that's on track. and Tuticorin will be completing it by December or Jan this year.
So FY 25-28 would be the big year for you when all these capacities.
So these are actually, if you personally ask me, these are smaller capacities that you're looking at. The bigger capacities that we are adding are on the slurry pipeline, Jatadhar, and the expansions in the Jaigarh and Dharamtar ports.
Okay.
So these are actually the big ticket items, which would be around 100 million ton capacities getting added.
And all this will start reflecting fully in FY 28.
Half of that will be coming there.
You have an ambitious target of 400 million tons by FY 31. Give us a breakup of how you plan to do it. How much will come from rail, how much will come from ports, and how much from ICDs?
So let us say on the 8,000 EBITDA, 2,000 to 2,200 would be on the logistics play. The balance 6,000 to 6,500 would be the port and other play.
And you know, one thing which everyone is talking about is that we are in a super cycle for logistics. For the last 4-5 years, a lot of emphasis has been put into logistics. Geopolitics is now re-emphasizing that you need to have your supply chains, and that's one of the reasons why, compared to the last oil shock, the oil shock is not so visible in the economy today, because logistics and supply chains have been a little better, and we learned from COVID as well. How do you look at this entire logistics play as a whole? Are you looking at not just an infra player, but over a period of time it becomes an infra solution player, and the multimodal which you mentioned, is that going to be the way forward for any player who wants to be in the logistics business?
So I think you've answered it yourself. You see, now the days, as I told you, of standalone operators are over. So you have to give a one-stop solution to all your customers that, okay, I'll deliver it to you at your house at this price. I think that's what all customers are looking at. And the way strategically the government has also moved is for more electrification. If you look at it, Ministry of Railways has virtually electrified all its tracks. So now the diesel consumption on the incremental that used to come earlier, so that has also gone away. So now it's more coal-based electrification, and then you are moving ahead. And it's really paying dividends to India, because as you rightly mentioned, the oil shocks pressure you didn't feel this time.
Do you also look at energy as one aspect of your entire logistics business, that you set up your captive plants as well for?
No, we don't get into that. But what we have done in most of our terminals, we have moved into renewables. So let us say Ennore, we had a coal and a bulk terminal. So now we get 90% of the electricity is through renewables. Same is with Mangalore. Where we have not actually done, that's our philosophy also, to move into more of renewables there. So where we didn't do it is more of policy or implementation issues, where governments have not set up policies for pooling of power. So that is where we have not done it.
Mr. Ray, let's look at some of the challenges also which we are facing, right? From a point of view of congestion and infrastructure bottlenecks. Do you think that those are now getting addressed much faster as compared to earlier?
Absolutely. If you look at it, we are now the only company in India which is building 3 new ports. So if you look at it slightly down the line, around 3-4 years down the line, you will have 3 new ports coming up at different areas of the country, 2 on the west coast, 1 on the east coast. Number 2, we are getting into logistics into a big way. And most of the others are also seeing what they are also forecasting. They're getting into logistics in a big way. The synergy is also coming from the government. The government is now spending heavily in multi-tracking its routes. Plus, you are now getting new DFCs coming up. I think the government has announced studies for a DFC from east-west DFC. So that is right across India. You're looking at a.
But the existing northwest is.
So both are now functional.
But it's fully functional now? It's still in the...
So the last leg, the eastern is functional. The western, the last leg only up to JNPT is coming up fast.
When do you expect that to happen?
I think it's in another 2-3 months' time. It should be there.
And how do you see once that comes into the freight?
So there, on the western
speeds,
corridor,
do you expect the speeds to increase?
so not only speeds, the economics of it also improves. You see, the entire western dedicated freight corridor is having double stack containers. So you are carrying 2 containers in one train, and most of the places they are now looking at solutions where they're combining even 2 trains and moving it across. So you just imagine how many containers you are able to carry through, and the prices come down for the top layer.
Okay.
So that's
what is the kind of economics there?
So there it comes down by around 40-50%.
Oh, so the second
Layer comes down.
And you see that to be a good multiplier in terms.
Absolutely. And the carrying capacity is also going to be higher. It will be on a 25-ton axle load.
Oh, okay. Do you think that the kind of expansion we need with respect to having rakes, is there a bottleneck there of supplying of getting the rakes made in India?
So let me tell you, when we applied, placed the orders for this 40 rakes, we expected it to come somewhere in the second half of the year. The wagon manufacturers, they have started promising they'll start delivering the first rakes by May or June. So that's, I think they have also built up their wagon building capacity.
And one of the big things is about the forging part of it, which we are dependent on overseas. Do you think that they have been able to manage that kind of?
I think they have been able, because what they have been telling us is that we'll be starting the deliveries very soon. So that's been a very pleasant surprise for us. So.
How do you see, finally, how do you see this entire thing reducing the cost for us? Currently, it's around 8% of GDP.
So if you look at it by road, the rupees per ton per kilometer cost is around 3.78.
Yeah.
Rail is 1.96. So if you're having siding to siding movements, these are one of the cheapest movements that is possible. And that is where everyone is moving. So we are gradually going to see, because what the railways have done, GCT is one, then this wagon investment policies have been liberalized.
Yeah.
So 1 and 2, and the rating also they have started, the rating policy, they have started moving into a more, earlier there used to be huge breaks between the kilometer part. So now it's becoming more uniform. So I think all these measures of reforms is going to help that movement, that modal shift very much.
Mr. Roy, it was a pleasure talking to you today and getting an understanding of how the entire integrated logistics is working in India. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sajid, for giving this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.